You guys, I'm actually recording in my car that's in my garage right now because my kids are home from Christmas break and my husband is home because of Christmas and it's just chaotic. So you won't have any background noise. I am in my car. So we are taking some fabric in UV resin and gold foil and making some really beautiful studs. I love how these turned out. I did an experiment and it really paid off. So we're going to cut these little fabric squares to fit our mold. And today I'm just doing the square out of this mold and just making sure those fit. And this fabric I got at the Dollar Tree, but I'll link some really cute fabrics from Amazon in my description along with all the other supplies I used to make these earrings. It will all be linked in the description of my video. So I'm going to start by pouring in some UV resin directly into the mold. And I did these half and half. That way I wouldn't have to... I do it in my window and I didn't want it to cure fast. So I made sure that I was going to not have any curing happening. So I went ahead and did some gold foil. And see how I'm only putting a little bit and I'm only doing it on one side. It's going to be like the accent piece for the earring. Look how much trouble I'm having with that toothpick. If you've ever used gold foil before, you completely understand it will stick to your toothpick. But I'm just trying to get a tiny little bit off of there. That's why I like to use 2 toothpicks. So go ahead and put that on the side of each one. And I like to kind of leave a little space between pieces. It'll look better in the end. You'll see what I'm talking about. And then this is the fabric piece. We're going to turn it upside down and put it directly into the resin mold. The reason we're doing that is because the bottom of this mold will be the front of the earring. So we're going to place that, and we're not pushing down yet, we're just placing it on top, getting it ready for the next step. Just putting it upside down. And make sure they're the way you want them, and then you gently press them down with this toothpick. If you do it too forcefully, all that resin will just rise up and overflow, and it'll make a mess. You have to clean it up. So just gently push around the edges until that's down onto the bottom of the mold. This will look, I'm going to experiment with some more fabrics because I'm excited about the turnout of these earrings. There's so many possibilities. I also want to try it in bezels. So look for that video coming soon. Not sure when, but we'll try them in bezels as well, and it'll look cute. Okay, so I went ahead and did the other side, and I'm putting it under the UV Resin Light for about a minute or two. And this is important. Flip this over before the next step and go ahead and put this under the UV light for 2 minutes. The reason you use a clear mold with UV resin is so that the light can penetrate through. It can penetrate through the front of that mold. And what happens is, if you don't do that, you'll have wet resin on the other side because this fabric blocked the light. So make sure you do the bottom of your mold like that. Now we're going to put some more UV resin on top. And we want it completely filled up, but only to the top of the mold. So don't make it have like a dome shape or anything like that. I want it completely level because when we put on our stud, when it's level, it's going to make our life a lot easier. If it's a dome shape, it's just never works out well for your stud. It'll go on wrong and it'll look uneven. So you can even get down table height with your eyes and see if it's level or not. It's super important. Then once you have it filled up, you can take your toothpick and go around the edges to make sure that it's all in there, because sometimes that fabric can harden and there'll be a little gap like right here. See how I'm going to move that resin down and fill in that gap. Then moving it all around, just checking to make sure that resin is where it needs to be. And this is also going to help me bring up any bubbles to the top so I can pop them with a lighter. And just see how I'm making sure that fabric didn't have any holes. Now if you do happen, I did have an earring that had a hole when I took it out of the mold, where the resin just didn't get completely underneath that fabric. And if that happens, you can fill in that hole very carefully with a little bit of resin and then just dome the front of that earring, and you can't even tell what happened. So if you do get a hole, just put a little bit of resin in it and dome the rest of the top to make it even. we're popping these bubbles with a lighter. That's going to give you a finished look, and put it under your UV light for about 2 to 3 minutes to make sure it's completely hardened through. And they really did turn out very cute. Here's one of the white and green ones. And then I wanted to show you one that had pink on it, so I decided to show you this one. I love how just that little bit of pink, and you can kind of see through these as well, where it's just fabric. You can see through the threads. Isn't that neat? I'm trying to show you the light through the earring there. So you just want to clean up the edges a little bit, and this is how they turn out. They're just so pretty. I love them. I can't wait to try more fabrics with these, and different shapes as well from this mold. So here they are, all out of the mold, and now they're ready to put the stud on the back. I just love how they all turned out. And they're all slightly different, which makes it fun. So flip them over on their back. This is the studs that I typically use. It's a big pack of them, and it lasts for a while, which I love. So I'm going to take a couple out. And I tried this size on them, but then I decided for my later ones to use a bigger size stud, just so that I can save my smaller ones for other projects later. But this was what we did for this pair. Put a tiny little dot of resin, and I mean just little. You don't need a lot. And then we're going to take our stud and place it flat directly in the middle. Make sure that it's all the way flat against your earring, because it can kind of float with the resin. And then make sure and it kind of will also slide around. So just make sure right before you put it under the UV light to make sure it's right where you want it. Because once you put it under the UV light, you can't move it. So that's set your stud. So next you're going to take a little bit more UV resin and put a few drops. Just very little. You don't want a lot, because you don't want it running over your edges. Take 2 toothpicks. I use one to stabilize and the other one to move the resin around to the edges. And what we're doing is essentially just doming the back of this earring, but it's going to make sure your stud stays and is very stabilized, and it will not fall off. It's going to be permanently there, which I love that, because we set it and now we're making sure it stays. The resin needs to be all along the back of that stud and all along to the edges. And you want to do this very carefully to not run over the edges, because it'll make a mess. Once you do that, put it under your UV light for about 3 minutes, whenever it doesn't feel tacky anymore, so you can test it. Look how pretty they are. I love them so much. If your edges need cleaned up, you can do that. So once you are not a beginner anymore, you can get a little bit faster by doing more at a time. So just put one tiny drop on each of these earrings. Here's the rest of the earrings we did, and I'm using a bigger back this time. And I'm taking that back and I'm placing it into the middle of each earring and making sure they're all nice and flat on there. And then I'm going to hurry up and really hurry, make sure they're all right where they're supposed to be, because they slide around. Hurry, 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 and then put it under the UV light and let it set. And then that'll set our studs for us. See how they all kept on trying to slide? Eventually they do stop sliding. But it's just a faster way to get them done. So I would suggest this part, putting resin only on a couple at a time, because it can run over. So, even for an experienced resin user, we're not going to be super, super fast. So we have to make sure that we're making sure the resin isn't running over. So as a glob, what I did is just did 2 at a time. And then when I had it all along the edges, I knew that it was probably going to stay, because I didn't put too much resin on it. Then I continued on. And I didn't put the UV resin light on till the end. I would experiment with, if you've never done it before, with how well you can do it, how fast you can do it. And you will find your own rhythm, I promise. So as you get going, you'll learn more and more, and you'll probably even find your own way to do it, because I have. So I did this 2 at a time, and then I would add more resin on, and then I put the UV light on all at one time. So here is the finished product. I just put it on a single display card, which I thought they looked really cute. And I love the turnout. This one didn't have as much gold on the other one. I don't know why that happened. I'm not really sure. But I love how they all turned out. And if you liked how these turned out, please like and subscribe. Look at all the other videos I have on my channel, because I have so many. And have a blessed day.